It's recording this time.
Good.
H in the middle of your page. I'm going to start down here. If you look, it's way in the middle of your page, but I want to start with the harder ones, because if I do the harder ones with you, you should be able to do the easier ones. So, I'm looking at this, and I have to remember our steps. First, we add or subtract. Then second, I will multiply or divide. So I set up my problem by putting a line down the equal sign. I box off the variable and any numbers and signs in front of it. And that helps me see what side I'm going to start attacking. So since this is my variable side, I'm going to attack this letter or number. I'm going to get rid of it so I can figure out how to get n by itself, so I can figure out what the heck it equals. So how do I get rid of subtract 3? Adding 3. I'm going to add 3 to both sides. I do not change this to add. I leave the subtract 3 alone, and I add 3. Add 3. I cross this off. I do not put 0 underneath it. I'm trying to get rid of junk that is on this side of the equation, so I don't want to add a 0 because that just makes more junk. I'm going to copy n divided by 8, and you do have to write small or on another sheet of paper or you will run out of space. N divided by 8 is what's left on this side. Let me do the math for this side. I see different signs subtract. So I'm going to do my math over here. The box method for adding and subtracting. Put a line between them. I take just the numbers, no signs. The biggest number goes on top. 11 and 3 are my two numbers. The sign for 11 is negative. The sign for 3 is positive. Are these same signs add and keep, or different signs subtract? That is right. So I'm going to write the word subtract here. And no, 8, 9, 10, 11. 8 is my answer. Same signs add and keep, different signs subtract. Keep the sign of the bigger number. I'm going to circle that negative. Keep the sign of the bigger number. That'll be exact. All right, so n divided by 8 equals, what did we say this answer was? Negative 8. I'm going to rewrite it over here. I'm going to switch colors if I can find my Neato pen so that you can see my second step. My second step is to multiply or divide. This line, does it mean multiply or divide? It does mean divide. So the opposite of divide is to multiply. I'm going to show the opposite of divide by 8 is to multiply by 8. I multiplied by 8 on this side, and I multiplied by 8 on this side, and I didn't give myself a lot of room. But I've multiplied by 8 on both sides. I'm keeping this equation balanced. That's gone. And now n is all that's left. We finally got them alone. We isolated the variable. When you isolate the variable, it's by itself, and there's no number in front. There's no sign in front. He's all by himself. N now equals whatever negative 8 times positive 8 is. I'm going to write our Mr. Multivision rules over here if I can squeeze it in this little tiny paper. This is only for multiplying and dividing. Mr. Multivision. What is a negative times a positive? Negative times a positive is a negative. So my answer is negative 64. And I always like to try to box off or circle my answer right there. So this one was a nice level problem because there are different signs subtract. There was multiplying by a negative. All the things 8th grade teachers want you to be really good at. So O is next. It's a really good level problem too. I'm going to try to remember these two steps are always the same for undoing an equation. When you're undoing an equation and trying to isolate the variable, you work PEMDAS backwards. So we do adding and subtracting first. So I don't know if I'm going to be attacking the plus 17 or the negative 3. So let me do my prep work. I'm going to box off the variable and any numbers with it. And that tells me what number to attack. I am attacking this number first. I'm looking around. I see people looking back at the screen, so I know you're ready for me to go on. So I'm going to attack. Well, how do I get rid of a plus 17? What's the opposite of add? Subtract 17. Subtract 17. It's so important that we write that both at the same time. Try to keep them level with each other so you can see that you did subtract 17 from both sides. I'm going to cross this out like I told you. Do not put a 0 underneath it because you don't want anything with the variable. You want to slowly chip away until the variable is by itself. So I'm going to be able to drop this down. W divided by negative 5 equals, are these same signs add and keep or different signs subtract? Same sign. So I'm going to put these in a box. The bigger number goes in front. They're both negative. So I'm going to add and keep. So same signs add and keep. 17 plus 3 is 20. Don't forget to keep. Same signs add and keep. So I just need to put that right here in my answer now. Negative 20 goes right there. So now this is all my problem is left. W divided by negative 5 equals negative 20. My second step is going to be in red. I see people writing, so I'm going to give you a second. No problem. Does anybody have questions? Your questions help other people, so I don't mind. Okay, I see a couple people looking up now. So what is the opposite, if my next step is to try to get this W by itself, what's the opposite of divide by negative 5? Multiply by what? Negative 5. So multiply by negative 5. Multiply by negative 5. I'm going to use my Mr. Multivision. We're allowed to write this kind of stuff down, especially for testing. A negative times a negative. Negative times a negative equals a what? Positive. So this is going to be 100 equals 100. What equals 100? W.